All right, hello, check, check, mic check. I think we're on here. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the DA Perspective. Appreciate everyone for tuning in today. Saturday, October 31st. It is Halloween, and happy Halloween to everyone who partakes in the occasion. So elephant in the room is pretty obvious this week. It's the election. It's coming up. We only have a few days left. Early voting has ended in a few states. I don't know all the states. I think some may or may not still have a day or two to still do that. But nonetheless, Tuesday is approaching very fast. And if you haven't voted yet, this is your beginning of show reminder to do so. And then, at the end of the show, I'll try to remind you again. So, today's show, we're going to go back to basics a little bit, going back to some prepared stories or remarks that I have. Today, I want to go over Bitcoin, socialist narrative of the Trump and the Republican campaigns right now. I want to talk about Borat, Rudy Giuliani. I want to talk about the record voter turnout, Starlink, the Lincoln Project, and then again, I'm just going to remind everyone to go vote if you haven't done so. So bear with me for 1 second. I just want to double check that all the feeds are live, that everything's good to go. I think we are good to go. Everything looks to be in order. Okay, yeah, Facebook's still up. All right, great. So let's just jump right into it. Right now, currently what's happening is the Trump campaign is in full force right now. I believe they're in Pennsylvania at the moment. So let's actually break away. I just want to throw in a little bit of comments here from the president. So let me go ahead and put this on.
Of the United States of America, that would be the toughest job in the world. And at times, Joe doesn't seem to remember that he's even running for president, or what state he's in, or what day of the week it is. Does anyone really believe that if elected, that Joe Biden will actually be in control of anything?
What kind of country we're going to be? 4 more years of Georgia, is going to find ourselves in a position where if Trump...
So it looks like the Trump campaign is out in Pennsylvania right now. They were out earlier in another state campaigning. Going over, basically what they've been doing is they're playing these videos. They're kind of like campaign ads. The ones that they're playing right now, they're throwing jabs at Joe Biden's cognitive ability. They've been doing that for quite some time. This is in stark contrast to how Joe Biden has been campaigning. As you can see behind Donald Trump right now, and this is live for those who are just tuning in, Donald Trump is live in Pennsylvania. I think he's in Reading, Pennsylvania. As you can see, people packed elbow to elbow, albeit they are wearing masks now, so I guess that's a welcome visual. But I take this, and we'll go back over here to the main cam. I take the visual of... I never set that one up. I do take that as... Actually, let's just go here. So I do take this visual here as, how do I say this? To me, it's a symbol that he's in fear of losing, right? If he didn't feel like he had it in the bag, if he didn't feel like he had it in the, if he felt like he had it in the bag and, he didn't really have to work hard to win, I don't think he'd be going out and doing campaigns in this manner, especially right now because, coronavirus, right? And some of it might be a giant middle finger to everyone who he opposes, who's telling them, hey, stop doing rallies and people are getting sick and you're going to spread, super spreader events and all that stuff. I think it's less of a middle finger to those people, and I think it's more of the actions of a man who truly believes that he might lose this election. So for anyone out there who's looking for some calm at this moment, I look at this right here, and if Donald Trump is not your candidate, I would say feel a little more calm about it now, knowing that he is kind of, to me, what it looks like is grasping for straws. So there was some Joe Biden events going on earlier. I think Obama, I think they're in Michigan with Governor Whitmer, but it's not live like this one is here. So we're just going to go ahead and not for Joe Biden. Okay, so let's look at a live electoral map. So what we have here, so this is a live feed from the electoral map, and whoever put this together, it's basically live. It's pulling in all the information, and what I want you to see is this box down here. And let's see if you can see. Oh, you can't see my mouse. I forgot I have it taken off. So if you look on the bottom left, just under the map of the United States, where it says national polling averages. So right now from 538, well, it keeps changing. So here, Real Clear Politics, we have Biden up 51 to 43. And let's see, 538 has it at 52 to 43. So what those do is they actually take a compilation of all the of a bunch of different polls from around the nation, and they put them together and they average them. So that's why it's national polling averages. So if we look at the last 5 polls for each state, like we know Texas is something that's in contention right now, which when I was growing up, I grew up in San Antonio. When I was growing up, I mean, Texas being in play was a non-issue, right? Like no one ever thought. But now to see that actually potentially be happening, and I think a lot of it has to do with people like my age who still live in Texas, who maybe have a little bit more, I'm not going to say progressive mindset, but maybe less conservative mindset than their parents, our grandparents, our aunts, uncles in the community that raised us. So, I think the younger generation isn't as susceptible to what I would call bullshit as people in previous generations were. And I think a lot of it has to do with the free flow of information. And so there. So Wisconsin, really big state everyone's looking at. So let's look at this electoral map right here. And Wisconsin, it'll be all the way on the bottom left of the 5 polls. So it's looking like Trump is trending up. So if you can see, Trump would be the red line and Joe Biden would be the blue line. So again, we're on Wisconsin, WIS, on the bottom left of all the polls on the right. So it does look like Trump is trending up and Biden has fallen very hard. Now that could be attributed to the whole oil remarks, or just to the reality that Republicans are traditionally day of voters and Democrats are traditionally early voters. So that is all yet to be seen. So let's get back out of that. All right. So I wanted to go back into another story that so another story from the week that I thought was pretty interesting that had to deal with Donald Trump in the election had to do with of all people, Jay Cutler, right? And this isn't so much about Jay Cutler as much as this is where I want to talk about this narrative that the Republicans are pushing, that under a Joe Biden administration, socialism is going to take hold. And I've been listening to a bunch of Trump rallies over the past couple weeks and days, and then obviously you kind of started hearing that rhetoric come out more and more as the debates unfolded. And so what I thought was quite ironic is the fact that the Socialist, right? Bernie Sanders is not the nominee, okay? He's not, right? We know he's not because it's Joe Biden. Yet what the Republicans have done is they've weaponized the idea of socialism and a Bernie Sanders administration to attack Joe Biden, which has, I guess, been somewhat effective in kind of separating from within a little bit of the Democratic voting base, right? So people like myself, who I consider myself to be an independent, but I I've almost always voted with Democrats. I myself take issue with Joe Biden, trying to protect himself from the socialist narrative by distancing himself from democratic socialist ideas and the things that people like me and the progressive side of that party are espousing. So in that aspect, it's to the benefit of the Republicans to weaponize socialism. But I want to debunk that because it's total bullshit, and it's not even close to what they're trying to make it to seem. So basically Complex ran this story about people reacting to Jay Cutler endorsing Donald Trump, right? Fucking Jay Cutler, guy, whatever this guy. He had plenty of time to be a good football player. And, or how would I say this? He had plenty of time to be a great football player, and he ended up just kind of being a good one, And for people who live in Chicago like I do, going through, I used to watch a lot. I used to watch football. I don't really care much for it anymore. So basically what he did was Jay Cutler reposted to his Instagram some words by another athlete, Jack Nicklaus, right? So if you're not familiar with OG golfing, like back in the day, Jack Nicklaus was, as they have him listed here, the GOAT golfer, Jack Nicklaus. And if you don't know what GOAT is, greatest of all time, it's just an acronym that people use. So basically, I want to read through this, and you'll see why I'm bringing it up with the socialist aspect. So Jack Nicklaus writes, "Through the years, I've been blessed to personally know several presidents on both sides of the aisle. All were good people, all loved their country, and all believed in the American dream. I've had the privilege of, over the last 3.5 years, to get to know our current president a little more as his term progressed. I've been very disappointed at what he's had to put up with from many directions. But with that, I've seen a resolve and determination to do the right thing for our country. He has delivered on his promises. He's worked for the average person, in my opinion, and has been more than diverse. In my opinion, he has been more diverse than any president I have seen and has tried to help people from all walks of life equally. I'm just a guy from Ohio and a Midwestern middle-class family whose grandfathers both worked on the railroad. They gave their son, my father, the opportunity to pursue his education and his American dream. I was taught strong family values and worked hard to pursue my own dreams, my own American dream. I also believe that Donald Trump's policies will bring the American dream to many families across the nation who are still trying to achieve it. You might not like the way our president says or tweets some things, and trust me, I have told him that, but I have learned to look past that and focus on what he's tried to accomplish, which I find very telling because, I don't know. We'll go into that here in a second. This is not a personality contest. It's about patriotism, policies, and the people they impact. His love for America and its citizens and putting his country first has come through loud and clear. How he has said it has not been important to me. What has been important to me are his actions. Now you have the opportunity to take action. I know we are only a few days away from November 3rd and Election Day, but I'm certain many of you have not yet made up our minds. But if we want to continue to have opportunity to pursue the American dream and not evolve into socialist America and have the government run your life, then I strongly recommend you consider Donald J. Trump for another 4 years. Certainly have and already cast my vote for him. Signed, Jack Nicklaus. All right, so, all right. Sorry, I'm flipping around. Here's my problem with that. I'll leave it up here so we can look at it a little bit. So here's my problem with that. They keep saying this thing about socialism, right? They keep saying it's going to devolve into socialist America, and you're going to lose all your freedoms, and you're going to lose all your rights. You know, the government already tells you what you can and cannot do. That's the reason why governments exist, to maintain law and order, to provide civil services to the people who pay taxes into the government, because we need water. because we need a sewage system that works and takes away our human waste, right? Because we need some form of regulation to keep our air, air quality at sustainable levels that we can walk outside and breathe, right? We need these things. We need government in some fashion. Now, I do understand the whole red team's side of the argument, which is, they want small government, and they want more liberty and more freedom and the fundamental principles on which this nation was founded. 100% get it. I'm with you to a point, right? Republicans right now specifically are crying law and order, right? They want law and order. Who creates laws? Who enforces laws? Who maintains law and order? Government entities, government agencies, local, state, federal, right? So this idea that not to evolve into socialist America and have the government run your life, it already does. I can't smoke weed in Texas because it's illegal. The government there is running my life. The most Republican government in Texas is running my life there. So I say that because I want to break through to you, whoever's on the red team and is listening. So let's find this place in the middle that is like government outrunning our lives, but also, right, the necessity that government is essential to help sustaining a quality of life that we all enjoy, right? So I would love to get to a place where the government doesn't run my life, where the government assists in my life. So in the same way that you want to push back against socialist ideas, let's start pushing back against unjust policies and regulations that actually create more problems than they help, right? So we can definitely start with the war on drugs. I think the war on drugs is very in line with Jack Nicklaus's argument here about having the government run your life. Government created this fake war on drugs, which essentially came in and said, you, person, you're not allowed to do this thing. You're not allowed to put this inside of your body. You're not allowed to have the freedom to make your own choice. Unless it's alcohol. You can drink as much of that shit as you want. You can actually drink alcohol. You can drive against the law, get drunk, get caught. You're going to be in trouble for a little bit. But then, you just get to get back out there and just go for it again. Just don't do it again, okay? Right? So that's how it works. So what I'm saying is I'm trying to break down the hypocrisy of that, right? So let's use this idea that you're scared of socialism to actually translate it into formidable change so that we can fix the problems that are in our country now. I'm all about that. I'm all about reforming the way government has infringed upon the liberties of our life. 100% there with you. But I don't think the idea that it's because of socialism that's where that argument is rooted, right? So, so the other thing, all right, so on to the next one. So if you guys haven't gotten a chance to see it yet, the Sacha Baron Cohen, he's a comedian who created the Borat character, and he figured out a way to disguise himself continuously so that people didn't know who he was, and he was able to kind of run around all these different places in America and disguised as his character. He was able to get real people to believe they were part of real things, which is crazy. To his credit, in the age of post reality television, even though there still is reality shows, but when they first started, Survivor first started and all these kind of shows, and what was it Road Rules, MTV, you remember that? What was the one with the house? Man. Anyways, they had all these people living in the house, MTV. And so to be able to do reality stuff now where everyone is aware of cameras and can't get it by anyone. They're like, oh, there's a camera, this is fake, you know, I know you're playing a joke or whatever. So he's able to go out and actually still get people to, despite a camera being in their face, to still have genuine reactions and still be real participants in this thing that he's putting together. So I want to go to this. So basically, Borat 2. So he came out with the second Borat movie. So if you don't know about the other Borat, I want to say it was like almost 10 years ago. And Sacha Baron Cohen created this character whose name is Borat. It's from Kazakhstan. It's it's an incredibly fictional character. And he used that individual to gain access to different parts of American society and to kind of highlight I think a lot of the hypocrisies in those societies, but then also just the absolute absurdity of some of those parts of society, right? Just the way that people think and feel and stuff. And after he did Borat 2, I watched this interview that he did recently, and he said, because in part of the movie that he did now, he lived with these two kind of super Trumpy dudes, and like they were like in a cabin somewhere. And he said, I don't agree with anything that those guys said. But those guys, they were like nice guys, And like after I got to know them and they got to know me, like we ended up kind of like being, really cordial and really nice to each other. So I think that's the core of a lot of this anyways, right? Is finding the commonalities between people and, trying to find a resolution. So nonetheless, in Borat 2, Rudy Giuliani, there's a scene in the movie where Rudy Giuliani is doing an interview with who he knows to be a 15-year-old girl. Okay? Now, the actress in the movie was not 15 years old. I believe she was 24 years old. And I can't show you the clip here. The clip is online. Like you can see it. You can find it on YouTube. Just Google it. But the movie is also on Amazon Prime, I believe. So if you have Prime, you can watch it for free. Now, this is Kennedy. Kennedy, actually, it's funny. Kennedy used to be on MTV. We were just talking about MTV. Kennedy used to be an MTV host and a VJ, I think they called it. And now she works for Fox News. So, people need jobs, I guess. That's the only. I remember when I first saw her on Fox News, I was like, okay. So she's been there for quite some time. Anyways, she is interviewing him about a whole bunch of stuff. Obviously, here you can see on the bottom, Mayor Giuliani, Hunter Biden controversy or whatever. But the next thing that she asked him, I think is very it's good. So check it out.
You think Rupert Murdoch would let them print false material?
Heavens no.
Just because I gave it to them?
Do you regret?
You think I'm an idiot and I'm going to print false material?
Do you regret your interaction in the Borat movie?
Hold on one second. I think Donald Trump's playing in the background.
Short-term deal basis.
There he is.
Countries.
That guy.
It's not like you're leasing a store.
You think they're printing false material? You think Rupert Murdoch would let them print false material?
Heavens no.
Just because I gave it to them?
Do you regret?
You think I'm an idiot and I'm going to print false material?
Do you regret your interaction in the Borat movie?
No, that's a stupid question, isn't it?
No, it's not
really
stupid at all. I
question.
have a 15-year-old daughter. I watched that and I was kind of grossed out by it. I'm giving you a chance to explain.
Well, I called the police when I realized that it was a scam. I called the police and he ran away because the minute she said something compromising, I called the police. Whether you believe it or not, I was tucking my shirt in. He made it appear as if it was something different. The minute she said she wanted to give me a massage, I called my security guy and we called the New York City Police Department, who came there, and Borat and his 50-man crew ran out of the place.
All right.
So that's what happened.
Finest
Would you like to ask me any other
in the world?
Any other question to attack me for merely coming on your show to show you what criminals they are from a hard drive that's been verified by about 50 people, including the New York Post?
No, I'll see you tomorrow.
Now,
I'll read it for myself.
Like
I'll put my eyeballs on it. I can't wait. Thank you for your time, Mr. Mayor.
Maybe you should.
So that was a
Yeah. So, and just a quick shout out to Christo.
Very awkward
right
exchange between Fox News,
Christo
Fox
Avalis.
Business host Kennedy and
he's pretty cool. So check him out. He's on YouTube. So thanks, Christo, for letting me borrow this from your. So, so the scene that Kennedy is talking about in the Borat movie, it involves. Give me 1 second. Scene. So the scene in Borat that Kennedy is talking about, they're in a hotel room, Giuliani and this young reporter, and let me see if I can find a picture of this scene.
From a hard drive that's been verified.
So okay, so here it is. So this picture over here on the top right, you see the girl sitting down and Giuliani there. So that's what the scene looks like. That was what there it is. So that was the scene. And there's actually one point where they start having drinks. So again, he even alluded to in the Kennedy interview, as soon as she said she was 15 and wanted to give me a massage, I called it off or whatever. Listen, I watched that tape. That's not what happened. I don't know that. I don't know that for sure. I think he knew that she was 15 the whole time, or 15. Again, she's 24. They 100% were having drinks. They 100% left this space when she said, "Let's go have a drink in the bedroom," and he went and did that. There's also a couple times where he just touches her creepily. And listen, the only reason why I'm doing this is for a couple reasons. The first reason being, this guy is going out right now all over in the media, all over in the news, pushing this, Hunter Biden narrative in a last-ditch effort to, smear the Biden campaign and, try to take away votes and shit or whatever, right? And we've talked about this before. Pretty sure there's a lot of truth to a good portion of that whole narrative, right? The Hunter Biden using his father's position of power to get paid $50,000 a month with zero work history and experience in that industry. Pretty sure there's a lot of truth to that, and that it sucks and it's shitty and it's wrong. But this guy, I think, if you give it, you got to be able to get it. So he's going out there talking shit. So we're going to give it right back to him. Plus, I want you guys all go watch the Borat 2 movie. I think there's a lot of nuances in that movie that I would like everyone to kind of see. I think he has a real knack for displaying the American in a way that I think the rest of the world actually sees us, And I think that's something that Americans don't do often. We don't often stop, take a second, separate ourselves from ourselves within, and look at ourselves from an outward perspective and kind of reflect on how we really operate here and how we really are perceived by the rest of the world. So, go check out Borat. It's actually pretty funny. All right, so next big story, we have record voting turnout right now. Oh, forgot. There was one more message on the Borat thing. So he actually came out with an official statement a couple days after everything had dropped. So go ahead and we'll play this here.
Yag Shamash, I here to defend America's mayor, Rudolph Giuliani. What was an innocent, sexy time encounter between a consenting man and my 15-year-old daughter have been turned into something disgusting by fake news media. I warn you, anyone else try this, and Rudolph will not hesitate to reach into his legal briefs and whip out his subpoenas. Dziękuję.
Yeah, so again, his wordplay is on point, and he's just really good at it. All right, so next big story, record voter turnout. So this video is from this morning. Good morning, America, and we'll just let them do their thing.
With a record number of Americans hitting the polls early, voters across the country casting their ballots well ahead of Election Day. ABC's Elwyn Lopez joins us now with more on that from Atlanta. Elwyn, good morning.
Good morning, Whit. We're just 3 days ahead of election, and with COVID-19 cases surging across the nation, voters are doing everything they can to get their early ballot in. This morning, the final stretch of early voting amid the growing pandemic.
I'm trying to help people where I can.
In hard-hit Wisconsin, coronavirus cases are surging, hospitals in near capacity. Yet workers there making sure patients like Julian get their absentee ballot in. The 23-year-old is fighting COVID.
It was one of my first thoughts, after my health and everything. I was just like, well, how am I gonna do this now? How am I gonna vote?
And in battleground Georgia, many stood in line for hours on Friday, their last chance to vote ahead of Election Day.
If you're not going to vote, then you can't complain.
Other crucial battleground states like North Carolina and parts of Florida ending early voting today. Gertrude Stackhouse is 102 years old. She's lived through 2 pandemics, the 1918 influenza and COVID-19. Now she's voting for the first time.
Wonderful, wonderful.
You're right, Mom. It's wonderful.
Thanks to being alive to do this.
Early voters shattering records across the U.S. with at least 87 million ballots cast so far. Overnight, that number doubling early turnout in 2016 at 43 million. In Texas, more than 9 million people already voted. That's more than all of 2016. With just a few days to go, officials in some states now encouraging voters to drop off their ballots instead of mailing them. In Central Florida, security guards are keeping an eye on drop boxes day and night to ensure the integrity of the election.
It made me feel just a little bit more secure knowing that someone was there standing by the box and making sure that the ballot did get in.
Here in Georgia, more than 3.8 million voters have cast their ballot ahead of Election Day. To put that into context, in 2016, 4.1 million Georgians voted in total. Eva?
We are seeing people all across the country voting early. Elwyn, thank you.
Yeah, so that's a really good sign. That's a really good sign for a number of reasons. And let me... So, obviously in America, we've always had a problem with voter turnout, right? So, this idea right now that this is the most important election of our lifetimes, I mean, this is probably the first time that I've actually seen the response of American voters actually go in line with that narrative. Because normally people just, when Trump was elected and Hillary lost, that was also the most important election of our lifetimes. Now we know that it actually kind of was, but so this time for sure. So we have 87 million people that have voted thus far. And for context, and I pulled this up last week too, so if you missed it, for context, this was the election results, excuse me, from last time. So we had 55, if you can see right above Donald Trump's head. Actually, let me zoom in. Right there. So 55%. 55% of eligible voters turned out, which translated into 62.9 million votes for him, 65.8 million votes for her. But again, by way of the Electoral College, Donald Trump won with 304 electoral college votes, and Hillary Clinton had 227. So again, this is why it's really important for you to vote in whatever fashion that you see fit, that's legal, and for whomever you deem to be the best candidate. My piece on that. Yeah, definitely just go vote. And shouts to everyone who's already done so. It really wasn't that hard, was it? Right? So hopefully everyone can keep this up, and we can do this again and again and again and again and again for many, many elections to come. We can actually start getting some substantial change now, hopefully, that everyone's bought into the election process. So, all right, so I want to transition into another story here. For those of you who don't know, also wanted to set a little bit of expectations. Historically, when voter turnout has been really high and record numbers, it doesn't always have to be a record, but just marginally higher than in previous years, Democrats usually do end up doing incredibly well. So that kind of ties directly into, and I wasn't able to put it together for this show, but there are a lot of instances of voter suppression that have been happening during this election in ways that they have not before. The one thing that comes to mind for me is Governor Abbott in Texas changing the law, the ballot box drop-off locations. One per county, which is insane because I believe Houston has, I don't know, how many people is Houston? So Houston's population, 7 million. There you go. So 7 million people had one drop-off box. Yeah. Modern day voter suppression. So, and the reality is if your vote didn't matter, they wouldn't try so hard to keep you from casting it. So tell them to go fuck themselves and go vote. Okay. So Starlink, really big, exciting news for people like me, and hopefully for people like you. So I love the internet. I hope you love the internet too. Big news this week is about Starlink. So I'll go ahead and pull it up here. And if you're not familiar with what Starlink is a high-speed internet across the globe program. Okay, this is part of SpaceX. It is Elon Musk branded, goodness for the world. And again, I know he's part of that billionaire class and he does have a lot of money. So that is another discussion to have about billionaires and all that other good stuff. But albeit from this specific billionaire, we're getting this idea that everyone in the world should have access to high speed, low latency internet. And if the current pandemic has taught you anything, it is that the internet is essential to human life going forward, right? It seems like there is no way that we are going back. So if you thought that, you were going to be able to, go back to, the way that we were before, it's probably not going to happen. And what I mean by that is the days of standing on a corner and hailing a cab are really diminishing, right? So now when we get rides, we have to use our phone and we go through an app and we get it. The days of calling your local pizza restaurant and having them deliver a pizza to you are also going away. Now we go through an app that goes to the internet and it connects to that location. We're talking about driver's licenses, paying all your bills, banking, your money, getting paid. Like everything is through the internet. Everything is through the internet, right? Very few things are not. So the reality is that it's becoming almost as essential to human life now as, dare I say, water. Okay. Yes, I understand that you don't need the internet to live like you need water, but when you're playing semantics, then yes, right? But if we're talking about, how we live, like figuratively, like right now, yeah, you can't live without the internet. It's almost impossible. You know what I'm saying? So during the pandemic, one of the first problems that we had, especially with school children and education, was the reality that there were so many underserved communities in the United States that didn't have equitable access to a solid internet connection. Insofar as some municipalities are having to vote on initiatives to ensure that something like this doesn't happen again, something like this meaning when we shut down the schools and the kids have to learn from home, they ain't got no internet, right? So, that's why I really like this program, the Starlink thing here. So Starlink, it would afford you the opportunity to have high-speed internet across the globe. And again, this is a new format, so if this box is really small and you can't read any of it, drop me a comment. I'll read it after the show, and then I'll reassess. But here, I'll go back to the big browser for that. So yeah, with performance that far surpasses that of traditional satellite internet and global network, and ground infrastructure limitations, Starlink will deliver high-speed broadband internet to locations where access has been unreliable, expensive, or completely unavailable. I mean, we're talking in the middle of nowhere, right? Like, and if we're speaking specifically about America, there are very large swaths of this nation that are very remote locations, and it is really hard to get good internet out there. So now imagine a satellite-based solution where you can have just as good internet as New York City, right? And the way that they do that is they're sending satellites up in space, and I think I actually have... It was just a space launch. They just launched it a couple weeks ago. Shuttle launched into orbit, and it had like, I think, 67 Starlink satellites on it that they were going to release into orbit, and they've actually begun the program. So what's exciting about this is it uses these satellites that, you know, send it all back down. But what's great is this. So the prices are looking like it's going to be $99 a month, and we know that because an email was sent out and immediately posted to the internet by whoever got it, which thank you. So it's called the Better Than Nothing beta test, right? So it is in its initial stages. It's beta testing. The Starlink service is priced at $99 a month plus, oh, let me make this bigger for you guys. It's priced at $99 a month plus a, can you see that? Oh, okay, there we go. But $99 a month plus a $4.99 upfront cost to order the Starlink kit. I'll be honest with you guys, as soon as I found out about this a few days ago, I went to starlink.com and I filled out this form right here. So if you want to be one of the first people that have access to this beta program when it becomes available in your area, go to starlink.com, put in your email address and where you live, and then, you know, they'll let you know when it's available in your area. Yeah, so for $500, they send you a kit that actually has a satellite, and it's about the size of a pizza, which for some people is, you know, whatever. But half of you guys have Dish Network on the side of your house anyways. So imagine if it gave you internet for $99 a month. And we're looking at the kit includes a terminal to connect to the satellites, a mounting tripod, and a Wi-Fi router, which is dope. And you're supposed to be able to expect speeds from 50 megabits to 150, which that's pretty good for what you're paying for. And you know, if any of you have like, I live in Chicago and I have to deal with Comcast. Comcast is a vile entity. Like, I know of no person who loves this company, you know. So there's an option for you. So that's some exciting stuff. This is the way of the future. So shouts to the SpaceX and Starlink team. All right, so moving on. So I wanted to go over some more. I stumbled upon some political ads that were put together by the Lincoln Project. I kind of briefly touched on them last week in last week's show. So this is a consortium of previously, well, I mean, they're still Republicans, but previously, like what I would say is like traditional Republicans, you know, like the pre-Trump Republican era. Because the reality is that the Republican Party has irrevocably changed now, at least in the near term, from everything that Donald Trump has done. He has literally went from being an outsider candidate, someone that I believe like Lindsey Graham called a jackass on national television. Like, this was when he was running for president, right? Everybody thought this guy was not going to win, and he was a jackass. So now he's a president. So these individuals, there are 1, 2, 3. Here, actually, I should pull it up. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 of these people from different parts of the Republican Party and Republican base decided that Trump was not the guy. Okay, and one of these notable figures right here, George Conway. If you're familiar with Kellyanne Conway, and if you don't know who that is, I'll pull that up for you. And as soon as I show you her face, you're gonna know exactly who she is. Kellyanne Conway, lady over here. Yeah. So, and this was from the beginning of the presidency. She was clearly pro-Trump. She was on TV all the time, in talking in support of Trump, not only to like the press and other government agencies, but you know, regular American people. She was out there full force. Might as well have had "I love Trump" tattooed on her forehead, because that's all that ever came out of her mouth. The crazy part, and if you weren't following this the whole time, the crazy part is here. And I don't know what this article is or whatever, but I just want to see this photo. So this guy right here, that's George Conway. That's her husband. So her husband is one of the founders of the Lincoln Project, whose only purpose is to ensure that Trump does not get reelected. And this was from the beginning of Trump being elected, that her and her husband had juxtaposing views on the president. And so it was always something that was kind of in and out of the media. And, you know, some people took issue with it because, you know, their marriage was, you know, marriages are like a personal matter, right? It's a personal affair. And yeah, I believe that to be true as well, right? Like what happens in the home should stay in the home if that's how we're trying to keep it. But I think the difference is these are public figures in a way, right? Especially Kellyanne Conway. You know, she was a public figure, the way that she positioned herself. Like, for instance, I'm putting myself out here on this camera, so I have to expect that eventually someone is going to come for me. You know what I mean? So I just have to take it when it comes, right? So nonetheless, George Conway, one of the main founders of this Lincoln Project. So consortium of Republicans. This is another guy, Rick Wilson, right here. Steve Schmidt. Steve Schmidt was a Republican. He worked on a bunch of Republican campaigns. Bush, Schwarzenegger, John McCain. Again, all these people are in opposition to Trump. So I wanted to play a couple of the ads that they put out that I thought were really effective. This one right here was put out October 29th, so 2 days ago, specifically for my Texas fam. This one is called "Don't Mess with Texas Voters."
Absentee good, universal mail-in, very bad.
First, Trump tried to suppress our vote by disabling the post office. When Texans pushed back and elected to vote in person, Governor Abbott ordered restrictions on drop-off locations to just one per county.
Counties can now only offer one location.
That would mean just 3 drop-off points for millions of voters in Austin, Houston, and Dallas, and every other large city and county in Texas.
To use a single drop-off location in these massive counties is not only prejudicial, but it's dangerous.
Abbott's decree is a clear violation of voters' rights. It's undemocratic in more ways than one, but he hopes that our fear of long lines in a COVID world will keep us home. He knows his buddy Trump is losing his grip on Texas, and he knows that our vote will make the difference. He doesn't get it. He doesn't understand our determination, our will, and the power of our vote. What will we do? We will show up to vote. We will stand or sit in line 6 feet apart for as long as we must. But we will vote. And we'll vote for Joe Biden. Because when we turn out, the cheaters lose.
The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
So yeah, that kind of went over what I was talking about with the voter suppression, right? With Governor Abbott, you know, reducing the number of ballot boxes and the drop-off points for the ballots. So here's another one that I thought was really effective. And the scene in here with the paper towel, like, to me, I think that, I don't know what it is about that scene, but I don't know what it is about that scene with Trump and these paper towels, but I think, like, if I had to pick, like, one thing over the course of his entire presidency that, like, I personally don't ever want to have kids, but, like, in the future, if I have to tell someone else's kids, like, what was Trump like, you know? I'm literally just gonna play this clip. I'll tell you after. Here, I'll show you the clip.
This is Mark Anthony. Our island and our people have suffered from natural disasters, COVID, and a wrecked economy. We have also suffered from another disaster, a president who treats Puerto Ricans with insults and contempt, who withholds aid and laughs at our suffering.
I hate to tell you, Puerto Rico, but you've thrown our budget a little out of whack.
Who jokes he should sell our island.
Puerto Rico.
Who treats us as if we're not American citizens who have fought and bled for this country. But Puerto Ricans came together to rebuild because we are strong and resilient. Puerto Ricans deserve better than Trump because we are better than Trump. Better than this contempt.
Speak English.
Better than his neglect.
I'm the best thing that ever happened to Puerto Rico.
Better than his lies.
Puerto Rico was an incredible, unsung success.
On November 3rd, Puerto Ricans will send Trump a clear message. We remember the lies. We remember the disrespect. We remember you left too many of us to die. This is Mark Anthony, and I urge all of you to join me and vote him out.
The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this ad.
This scene right here. Everything that existed in the lives of these people had been turned upside down by a natural disaster. And the person who runs the government that is tasked with ensuring that these people have what they need to come out on the other side of this natural disaster, instead of consoling these people and just, I mean, listen, you don't even got to console them. Give them what they need. Use this as a political pawn. He used the optics of him going down there and helping the people and all this bullshit. He used it for his political gain. And this scene of him tossing out paper towels to people, whether like, listen, you know, if you look in the crowd of all those people, I mean, there's different, like, some people are smiling and stuff. So, you know, it's just like, even if all of those people wanted to be there, right? Like, those people are under your care. Maybe don't parade them around in a way that allows them to be portrayed in this manner. And so whether you brought them together because they supported you or not in this moment, or people, you know, what I noticed too, one of the biggest things that I realized when I was in the military was, one of the biggest things about when I was in the military was when, like, leadership came around or people of power, like, everyone melted. Like, everyone just, you know, like, oh, like, people started fawning and stuff. Like, everyone was still, like, you know, everyone's maintained their bearing, right? Like, outwardly. But you could just tell that the energy and everything changed. So, for instance, there was a lot of people that I knew didn't really care much for President Obama, right? But when there was anything that had to do with that administration or whatever, or even certain, like, even just certain leaders within our local community, like on our base or whatever, like, everyone showed that person the respect they deserve. And some people were even still excited to see them, even though they may not really care much for them. That makes sense. So in this instance with him and the paper towels and shit, I think it's a mix of people just being excited to be around the president. And I think a lot of it had to do with the idea that the president is here, we're hurting, he's here, he's gonna help us. And then this guy fucking like, just fucking tossing out the paper towels was just like, what the fuck? That's how you render aid to people who need it the most. It's like a t-shirt at, like, a Bulls game. Like, he might as well have had, like, a paper towel cannon and just, like, shot him out to the crowd, you know? It's just, I don't know. This will be the image. This will be the image that I show other people's kids when they ask me, what was Donald Trump like? What was his mindset? How did he take care of America? And I'll show them this scene from Puerto Rico when Puerto Rico needed it the most, and he fucking tossed them paper towels. All right, so moving on. Oh, let's do a Bitcoin check. We're almost at the end of the show today. Thanks for holding on. So Bitcoin check. Bitcoin price right now, let's refresh this, is at 13,850. 13,850. So I want to actually just take a moment to kind of like say a few things about Bitcoin. If you don't know anything about it, reach out to me. I'll have a conversation with you. My phone's always on. We can have a chat. B, I'm not a financial advisor, so anything I tell you is my own personal experience, my own personal opinion. Okay, it's not even advice, even though it's kind of advice. Right? But I would say to not ignore this. It's been around for way longer than everyone said it was going to be around for. I believe it's proven itself to be exactly what it was set out to be initially, and I think this is a really opportune time for people to change the trajectory, the financial trajectory of their existence in a way that previously was not available. So read up on it. If you're still confused about it, reach out to me. My opinion is in the same way that you put money aside in a savings account or a 401k or however you move money in a safe space, a little bit of money to this as well, right? So if it's $50 a paycheck, then just buy $50 a paycheck. That's twice a month, $100 a month, $1,200 a year. Just do it. Just keep it. You can put it on auto buy. You can do all that stuff. And I think that you will be pleasantly surprised by the results with time, as with most things. This is not about getting rich quick. But it is, for me, I think, the idea about building sustainable wealth for yourself, for your family, and the people that you love. And the barrier of entry is incredibly low comparative to other wealth vehicles that we have in the United States. Not everyone has access to a 401k. Not everyone has access to owning a home. Not everyone has the ability to start their own business. You know, things that, you know, not everyone has money to invest in something that's, you know, can get them a really high rate of return, right? So this is something you can buy as little as a penny to as much as you want. Right? So look into this, give it a shot. Let me know if you have any questions. That's the Bitcoin check for today. All right. So last thing I think is go out and vote. Go out and vote. I have voted already, so I implore you to do so as well. If you need some assistance, if you need to find out where your polling station is at, if you need to find if early voting is still applicable in your area, if you need to locate a drop box, if you need to get information on who's on your ballot, which I think this is a really important one, find out who you're supposed to be voting for and what these people's policies are. Because at the end of the day, there are more issues on the ballot than just Biden versus Trump, Trump versus Biden, right? We have judges that get elected. There's initiatives in cities and states that are, you know, locally based that affect everyone in those areas. And it's really important that you educate yourself on what those are before you go vote. So, and it takes less than 2 minutes to register here. If you can see, register to vote, get an election reminder, become a poll worker. You know, here we are. We got 2 days and 8 hours left until election day. And then it's that big final push. So yeah, so appreciate everyone for tuning in today. Hopefully it was a good, quick show, and I went over some things that you all wanted to hear about. I will say we will be doing a live election day coverage. It is my Super Bowl, if you will. So I'm really excited to do that. So I'm hoping to have a guest or two join me for the occasion, and but nonetheless, I will be live for a number of hours that day. We'll be watching some live streams of news outlets from around the nation. We'll pull in some of the major news outlets and kind of piggyback on the analysis that they're doing. And, you know, I may or may not have a line for everyone to call in with comments and concerns. So I would love to hear from all of you. I'd love to hear what you're thinking on the day of the election and just in general. So if ever you have a question or comment or anything, you can send a message to the DA Perspective. If you know me personally, throw me a message on however we're connected, or send me a text. You know, my phone's always on. If you don't have my number and I know you personally, reach out to me. I'll shoot it to you. And yeah, so if you would take a minute, likes, share, subscribe this feed, whatever you see fit. I appreciate it. It just helps me to continue to do what I'm doing. But you know what? I'm just going to keep doing it anyways, you know, but it's nice to have some positive reinforcement. So I really appreciate that, your time, your energy, and all that stuff. So the DA Perspective on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, and on Twitter at DA Talk Show. So, you know, I'm out here just trying to find my voice. So with that, I may not always be correct, but at least I started the conversation. Peace.